Živjo, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ivy, and let's see what books I have been reading in June. The first book that I started to read is The Invisible Life of LaRue, and I see why it's so hyped and loved. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's wonderfully written. And you need to understand that it's written in the past and in the present, so it constantly keeps jumping. If that bothers you and you can't concentrate, maybe this will be confusing or maybe you won't like this book, but I had no problems with this. It was so good. So our sweet little girl ADDIE, actually, it started all in 17,000 when ADDIE made a deal with darkness, and she lived for the next 300 years. She has seen changes in the world, war, revolution, but also came with a cost. No one knows who she is. Everyone forgets her the moment they walk away. She can't leave a print in this world, so to show that she exists. So the darkness named Luke keeps visiting her if she is finally ready to give him her soul, but she never gave in until she met Henry in the year 2014, the only man who remembers her and made sure that the world will know of ADDIE and her life story. So Luke, you may think he's like, oh, she made a deal with the devil. No, he's the darkness. And if I remember right, he said that he is older than God and devil. So I kind of think, if you ever heard of the goddess Nyx, I think he could be her son because he's darkness, right? And Nyx is the night. That's what I'm getting at. Basically, back in the day, I mean, Jesus, for girls to get married at 15, 16, like that was super normal, right? They didn't have much freedom, as usual. Man had the freedom to explore, to do. A woman was just to stay at home, give birth to children, take care of the children, take care of the house. Our girl didn't want that. So when she was forced to marry, she made a deal with Luke, or Luz. How do you call it? Yeah, she shortened his name from Lucifer to Luz. But yeah, there were sacrifices. Even though she couldn't die, she still felt tired, hungry, thirsty. She still felt that, but she cannot die. There were moments until she figured out how to live this life. She suffered a lot for that 1 year until she started to learn. And it took her a lot of time to learn how to live this life. It was interesting. And when she met Henry, and I connected the dots really fast about what's going to happen next. I was correct, but still, damn, the ending. But I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it, no. I won't say anything. I really enjoyed this book. If you haven't picked this book up, I do recommend it. It was a wonderful book, a wonderful read. So my next book is Beach Read. I decided I want to read books that are very much, that scream summer, basically. So if you have any recommendation for either summer romance or anything like adventure, fantasy, something to do with the sea, please comment down below. So Beach Read, romance, fiction. It was cute. I liked it. Kind of funny to name your daughter January, but okay. So basically, January is a writer, and she is lacking ideas for her new book. Basically what to write. She goes to her father's vacation house and meets a boy who she knows from school, named Gus. And he's a writer as well, but he's working on something much bigger. It's kind of interesting how one is a romance writer and the other writes more like very serious type of stuff. I guess you can see like thriller. So they make a deal. Well, they kind of like recognize each other, and they make a deal to switch their writing, like Gus to include romance and her book to be a little bit more serious than happy endings. And they also decided to go like, I don't know, this deal date. Basically, Gus's day is Friday and January is Saturday. So in Friday, Gus has to come up where they are going to go. So she has some type of idea to write more serious stuff, like how he is looking for ideas. And January would plan her date more like romantic type of stuff. And of course, they kind of fall in love. They feel that pull. They actually had this chemistry perhaps when they were still in school. Now they're adults. Our January gets to learn a little bit more about Gus and her father on this trip. Basically, January didn't have it very easy. Her mom was diagnosed with cancer twice. She beat it. Good for her. You go, Mom. And I think when cancer hit the first time, the mom and dad from January kind of were split for a second because something was going there, and apparently he cheated in this vacation home that January is staying at. So she kind of didn't want to read his letters and knowing what he did and all that. And the woman that he cheated mom with was called Sonia, and it was kind of not fair towards her as well. I mean, she knew he was married, but at the same time, he kind of used her for heartbreak. I mean, apparently they were both heartbroken, or something has been going on in their lives. But when Dad returned back and stayed with January and the mom, the relationship started blooming back and everything was going okay, and Sonia was left behind. So that kind of was not cool either. January gets to know her dad. Now, if she's going to forgive him or not. But one thing I have to say is that Dad really loves his daughter. That's all I'm going to say. It was a cute read. Basically me crying was because of her dad when she was reading the letters and getting to know him and all that. Good read. I think it's a great start for the summer read, and let's see what else I'm going to find. Okay, so next book. I went with another one from this author that I was reading, Vicious. So, Playing with Fire. I see this is her style. I understand. Kind of need to get used to certain things. Like, okay, for example, here are some trigger warnings. Again, alcohol, swearing, violence, like the dirty talk and all of that. At least in this one, they're around 20 years old to 21. At least they're not 17, because in Vicious, they were like 17 and they did like orgies. That's how it was. So Grace, this kind of reminded me of the book from Colin Hoover. What was it called? November 9. Because Grace kind of got burned on her face and on her left side a lot. And she was very insecure and all that. And it kind of threw me back into that book. But this was completely different. It was not the same. He has nothing to do with fire. He didn't do anything. So basically, West is kind of like a rebellious guy and very popular at school, but Grace does not like him because he is popular, and usually, apparently, if you're popular, you are a bad guy because you get what you want. You can be mean and you will get away with it, like something along the way. But he wasn't all that bad. He's a player. What else am I going to say? He had girls left and right. It's kind of interesting, even though you can't blame him, because he said to these girls that he does not look for relationships. So one night stand. And they were fine with it. And some were not fine with it. Basically, our Grace was starting to get comfortable with her burning scars with the help of West. West actually came to work with her in making tacos. This is where they kind of argued as well as getting to know one another. Yeah, they're kind of feelings get involved. And Grace is being honest with him what's going on in her life, that she has a very sick grandmother. Her grandma has that illness that she just forgets who you are, or she mistakes Grace for her daughter. I don't forget how that one is called. And Wes later, mostly at the end of the book, told Grace about himself. But yeah, Wes has his own struggles. He's trying to help his family. He's doing some illegal things like going to illegal fights in ring, and he earns money that way, but it can be also very dangerous. Depends on who your opponent is. And like I said, he has a tragic past as well that involves his little sister. And why that kind of made him want to get to know Grace more, because it has something to do with fire. So playing with fire. Yeah, it's a love story. They do get together in the end, of course. But I do like how he helped her get confident, even though she had people, especially her best friend, pushing her to be more confident. She had a teacher where she also wanted to be like an actor. Her teacher kind of pushed her to get on stage. So she had people on her side so that she wanted to be like a rising phoenix, basically. But she had a hard time doing that. So with right people, she made it. Happy ending for both her and Wes. Of course, a lot of things happen in the book. I did enjoy it. It was okay. It was a nice read. So I finally get to read The Deal. I heard she wrote a lot of books, and I heard good stuff. I like it, but it's way too close to a book that I already read, so I kind of need to move away from these romance type of books, especially since it's college and sports. I didn't write it here, but it actually has abuse in this. The story is very close to Dear Abba. Basically, pretty much same thing happened to the girl. Just this one wanted to revenge, while the other one wants to move on. And Hannah did kind of move on. So this is about enemies, friends, to lovers. Like I said, trigger warning, abuse. They didn't like each other, or actually, not that they didn't like each other. Hannah didn't exactly like Garrett. He never noticed our girl Hannah until he sees that she had a really good grade, I think A, and he totally failed his exam. So he was very persistent to get her to teach him. Basically, he plays hockey, and if you don't have good grades, you can't play in the game. So you need to fix if you had a bad grade. So he's been extremely persistent till she finally said yes, and they made a deal. She agrees to tutor him, and he will help her to get a guy she likes. But things didn't turn out like that. Hannah started to see him different, and she really started to trust him, and he became like a friend. She trusted him with her story of what happened to her, and he became, protective, and she asked him if he would help her with this problem. She did have a boyfriend before, but she could never, when you get intimate, she just didn't feel it. So she asked him, her new friend, a guy that she trusted, if he would help her. Garrett at the start didn't want any relationship. Yeah, he was sleeping around, a player. But he really ended up falling in love with Hannah the more time they started to spend together. Yeah, it's a cute love story. It was okay. I enjoyed it. It's just I need to read some other books. Like I said, it's summertime. I'm looking for not just romantic. I'm actually looking even for fantasy, adventure, anything that has to do with the sea. Even if they are pirates, I'm fine with that. I'm going to read something else, because I don't want to read these type of books because I have a feeling they're going to keep repeating themselves. Like just different name, a little bit different setup, but it's the same story. So I need to switch to something else. But I did enjoy it. I think the book was great. And I found myself a kind of a summer book with pirates sailing the sea. Now this is fan fiction. I mean fantasy fiction, yeah. It reminds me so much on fan fictions that I used to read. Now this author wrote a really strong female character. This is enemies to lovers. This feels like a fan fiction that I used to read when I was super young. Alosa is a strong girl and has a dream to become the queen of the pirates. She is actually the daughter of the king of all pirates. She got kidnapped by people that kind of want to use her to get to her father and to get 3 types of maps that will get them into somewhere else where there are sirens and a lot of gold. Basically, when she was kidnapped and on the ship, we learn of who she is. Not just that she is the daughter, but also how she was raised by her father, the pirate king, and what abilities she has. She ain't no normal girl. The author really made a really strong female character, which I like, but she's still female with weaknesses, especially when her weakness is a man named Raiden. Yeah, this is more like fan fiction to me because the way she is written, just how good she is at everything. No man can do nothing to her. She is far too powerful. So this feels like a fan fiction, but I enjoyed it still. It was okay. And I'm actually continue to the next one. So if you haven't read Daughter of the Pirate King, give it a go. It was okay in my book. And here we have the last book of this month, and that is Daughter of the Siren Queen. I like this book more than the first one. It has more adventure happening here. Also, our girl Alosa, she didn't make choices. She did, but she found certain things out that her father has been hiding from her. For example, he's been lying about her mother and why he trained her the way he did. Basically, he's been using her. So her dad is the Pirate King, the one that rules them all, like Lord of the Rings. So she found out and she found her mother. She helped release her mom and she went to that one treasure that everybody's seeking and it's protected by the sirens. And on this adventure, she experienced loss. Many of her crew members die until she get there, and even when she does get to where that treasure is and where the sirens are, or her mother, her father and his entire huge crew already came there and captured her crew and her. So it was a huge fight, but she got help from her siren sisters, I guess. Even though they didn't kind of accept her because they could tell that she's not 100% siren. But yeah, this book has a lot more adventure and I like Alosa a little bit more in this one than in the first book. Also, in the end, Raiden and Alosa kind of finally starting to agree and accept feelings for one another. And even though Alosa has been asked by her mom to join her siren sisters, she still half human and she loves to be a pirate and she wanted to be with Raiden. I really enjoyed this one. The second one is, to me personally, better than the first one. I'm happy I found some pirate summer books. I have another one that I saw and I will be reading that one in my next month. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my little video. If there are any books that you would recommend for me to read, I read absolutely everything from thriller, mystery, horror, romance, dark romance, fantasy, whatever it is. If you have any books to recommend, please write them down in the comments. And I'll be seeing you in my next one. Ciao!